Hi guys, I'm Rebecca and I'm a second year student nurse at the University of Nottingham, and I'm just in the middle of moving into my new house for second year, so I thought that I'd make a video around that this week about some of the frequently asked questions I've had while moving into the house, and also just to tell you a little bit about my experience and how it's gone being able to move into my new house. Probably the most frequently asked question I get is, when did we start looking at where to live and getting a house for second year? And the answer is pretty much straight away. I started looking at my flatmates who I was living with at the time and the friends that I made at uni, and started thinking about who I might want to live with, because you have to start thinking pretty quick, otherwise a lot of the really nice houses are going to be taken and you might end up with a second-rate house or somewhere where it maybe isn't as cheap as you would have hoped for, because a lot of the obviously cheaper houses are going to go first because people are going to be wanting to pay less in their second year than they did for their accommodation. So we started looking for a house around about October, November. We were looking at all of the different student estate agents online and we just could not find a place where we wanted to go to. We saw a few houses and they just weren't that great. But one day when we were on our way back from seeing a house, we walked past one of the estate agent shops, one of the student specific ones, and we saw the most beautiful house in the window and it was right in our price range. So we went inside and we asked about it, and they told us that actually if we went to this area where the house was, we would get a lot more for our money than where we were looking before. And they also hooked up for us to be able to see a few houses similar to that as well. But ultimately we decided on the house that we saw in the window. It was a fluke really. We just were walking home and we walked past the shop and happened to see it in the window. It was just such luck that it was the house that we loved and we ended up living there. After we visited the house, we had another viewing at a different house the same day, and after we finished viewing the second house, we decided we weren't going to live in that second house and that we loved the first house. We walked straight to the estate agent and we paid our deposit straight away, and then the rest of our deposit we paid in December. So it went very, very quickly. From first viewing the house, there was lots and lots of paperwork and it went by very, very quickly. Another question I get asked is, where did we decide where to live? So we are actually living in a different area of Nottingham than we did in our first year where our accommodation is. It's a little bit further away from the hospital and where we're based. However, we are getting a lot more for our money. We went into the estate agents and they told us this. People will pay to stay where we were for our first year because it's kind of a party central and it's closer to the university. But we are quite close to the university. We're just on the opposite end of the university, but we're extremely close to a bus stop, and then the tram line is down the road, so we can get the bus and the tram to town and to the hospitals and anywhere. We're very, very closely linked to the public transport where we are. So I also get asked a lot, how did I decide who I wanted to live with? So basically my friend Ashley asked me if I wanted to live with her and the people who she's living with this year, and I said 100% yes. I knew I didn't want to live with the people who I live with this year. They're all very lovely girls, but our living situations are just very, very different. I didn't see them a lot. We were on different schedules even though we're doing the same course, because we weren't in any of the same seminar groups. We never saw each other, and the whole idea of living with them just felt very isolating for me again, because I didn't want to spend another year where I didn't really see anybody that I lived with. Moving house is so stressful, and deciding who to live with is also extremely stressful. After the first week of us paying our first deposit, we did have one of the girls drop out, and it caused such a drama and commotion. There was so much paperwork we had to fill out, and there was so much stress of being able to find somebody else who wanted to live with us. Otherwise we would have had to pay for a 6-bedroom house between 5 of us, and that would have made it go over budget, and some of the girls just could not afford to go over budget, so we were stressing so much. However, our lovely friend Beth decided that she was going to stay in Nottingham instead of commute, so she is now living with us and everything is great. So we're one of the lucky ones. We managed to get a tenancy that started in July, and because we have student nurses and student midwives living together, the student midwives are actually still at university now, so we needed somewhere that we could go after our accommodation had run out, so they still had a place to live while they were still at university for a few weeks. Our tenancy started on the 10th of July and we were allowed to pick our keys up from 12 o'clock that day. I picked my keys up at 1:45 on that day, and I was so excited. I had my mum and my best friend from home with me, and I drove them to the house straight away, and we got to the house and it did not look the way I remembered it. It did not look like how it did when we went to go and view it. It hadn't even been cleaned from the people who lived there before. There was cobwebs and dust everywhere. There was mould all in one of the fridges in the kitchen. My bedroom had dirty sheets and pillows left in it. There was a hole in the wall in my bedroom. The stairs were broken. There was mould. There was damp. And it hadn't been painted like we had promised. I was the first person out of all of the girls to collect my keys and go to the house, so I was texting everyone so stressed, telling them about the house and how awful it was, and they just didn't actually understand how bad it was. I told one of my friends, "It's so dirty," and she said, "Well, why didn't you clean it then?" After she went, she understood why I hadn't cleaned it. It was so awful. It wasn't how they had promised us. They promised us that everywhere would get cleaned and everywhere would be painted, and that we'd all get new mattresses before we moved in, and none of this had happened. I was so disappointed because I was going on holiday that weekend. I wanted to move all of my stuff from my student flat to the house before I went on holiday, but unfortunately that couldn't happen. Luckily, my mum called the estate agents and they went over straight away and they inspected the property, and they just were unimpressed by the state it had been left in, and they promised to send professional cleaners the next day, which they did. And while I was on holiday, I got a message from one of my friends saying that the bed in my bedroom was broken, and I sent a picture of this to the estate agents, and luckily they sent someone out the next day to fix it. It's been so stressful because so much has gone wrong with the house, but the estate agents have been so accommodating and they've been so nice, speaking to the landlord and getting maintenance and people to go over to be able to inspect the property. But also, while I was away, I was told that everything in my room had been fixed. My room was probably one of the worst. When I went to go and see it on that first day, there was black on the wall because it was damp, and there was a hole in my wall, and the mattress had a massive rip in it, and there was the dirty sheets and the dirty pillows, and the bed was broken, and everywhere was just so dirty. I was told while I was on holiday that everything had been sorted and that my room was ready to move into. The weekend after I had gotten back from my holiday, I went to the house to see if I could move my stuff in, and nothing really had been done apart from the bed had been fixed, and now a lot of the plaster had fallen off the wall from where the hole was in the wall, and there was water dripping down from the walls. There had been a small shower that morning, so my dad went into the attic and had a look, and he suspected that there was a leak in the roof, which has just caused so much more drama. I told the estate agents, and it was on the weekend, so they didn't get back to me until the Monday. On the Monday, the woman who I've been speaking to was really nice. She sent maintenance over to look at the interior, how much the interior would cost to mend, and also sent a roofer to have a look at the roof. And at the moment, I'm still not sure what his verdict is, but from the outside of the house you can tell that there is definitely gaps in the roof and it needs to be fixed, because every single time it rains it keeps coming in to my bedroom. And I did start to move some of my stuff in that day. I have put everything on the desk in my room and on the floor, but I haven't actually started setting anything up yet, because where it stands now my room is still not safe to move into, because there is a hole in the wall and there is a leak, so it keeps coming through with water every single time it rains, so it's making the room damp. And I've actually had issues with staying in a damp place before, and I got really ill, so at the moment I sadly can't move into my new house. I am going to be going there later today because I'm picking up one of my friends from placement and I'm taking her to our new house, and so I'm hoping that when I get there there's been some process starting. But the estate agents have been so lovely, and Rita, who I really want to give a shout out to, is the woman who I've been speaking to. She is speaking to the landlord to see if we can start work as soon as possible. The thing is, we just need to quote up at the moment and find out what actually needs doing, because if it's something small they can fix it straight away. If not, then we're going to have scaffolding on our house, and it's been a nightmare. I've paid 2 lots of rent so far and also my deposit, but I have not been able to live there since I received the keys over 2 weeks ago, because my room just isn't safe. Some of the girls have managed to move in, and all but one of us have moved our stuff in, but not everyone is living there at the moment, and unfortunately, how it stands, I can't actually live in my second year house at the moment. So I'm hoping that it can get sorted soon and I can join my friends and just start second year off. So if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe down below and hit the bell icon so you don't miss a single one of my videos. Thank you so much for liking and sharing and watching my videos. The response has been so amazing and I couldn't imagine that it would be like this. So thank you so much. I will see you next week with another video. Thank you. Bye.